Hi, I want to talk to you about discussion threads. When you take a class online, the experience is supposed to be analogous to taking a class in the classroom. But of course, it's not the same. And there are certain things that happen in a classroom that, quite honestly, cannot be duplicated in the online environment. But we do the best that we can. One of the things that happens in the classroom are class discussions, sometimes led by a teacher, sometimes led by students. And the discussion can often be very dynamic. Somebody mentions one thing, that sparks a thought in somebody else, which sparks a thought in somebody else. That kind of automatic back and forth doesn't happen in an online environment. But we do the best that we can. And one of the things that we do to try to get student-to-student interaction, as well as student-to-teacher interaction, are discussion threads. In your class, there will be a discussion thread every week. I will post a topic, a question, something to be considered. You will have two responsibilities. You will have to write an initial thread where you directly respond to the question, and then secondary threads in which you respond to other students. Typically, I ask for there to be two secondary threads where you respond, that is, to two different students. Now, you can't do a response to another student until after you have posted your first thread. Now, given how Canvas is set up, what will happen is that the first initial threads will typically be due on Wednesday of every week at 11:59 p.m. unless there's a holiday. Secondary threads will be due Friday, 2 days later at 11:59 p.m. Again, unless there's a holiday. Here's something I want you to remember. If you use the Canvas app to keep track of your deadlines, only the second deadline will actually show. Haven't figured out yet how on Canvas to do two deadlines for the same assignment. So you need to read the directions carefully and respond. Two different deadlines for the same discussion thread. Your initial thread due the first Wednesday, secondary threads due Friday. Now, the threads themselves, how do you get good points? Again, I can't do a rubric very well for two different assignments on the same assignment, right? In other words, you have an initial thread, and I expect more out of that. That initial thread should be anywhere between about 350 to 500 words long, sometimes longer if need be, in order to make your case. Long, by the way, by itself is not good. It needs to be detailed. You need to be specific. You need to be concrete. If you are just simply blathering, just blah blah, right? That's nothing, right? That's like listening to static. Doesn't mean much. Okay, so words themselves, just themselves, are not what I'm looking at. I'm looking at content. Content needs to be specific and detailed, considering the question that has been assigned. Same thing with your responses. Responses can be a bit shorter. 150 to 200 words is the typical length for a good response to another student. I ask you also, when doing your responses, to name the student who you're responding to, whom you're responding to, my bad. There's a practical reason for this. The way that I look at the discussion threads, I actually don't see who you're responding to very easily. So if you put the name and say, thank you, John, thank you, Mary, something like that, that would be really good for me. Otherwise, I have to go traipsing around through the Canvas shell to try and figure out who wrote the thread that you're responding to. That's not so easy. Also, as I said, details are important. Don't just say, well, Helen, that was a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful response, and I really liked reading it, and that was so wonderful. That says nothing. Want to be engaged, just like you would be in class, right? Specific details, concrete analysis, that sort of thing. That's what we're looking for in a successful discussion thread. So discussion threads will be worth 100 points each, divided into 50 points possible for the first initial thread, 50 points possible for the second thread, the responses, in other words, 25 each, for a total of 100 points. So here's something that always happens when the semester begins. Somebody writes a great thread. I say, hey, this is a wonderful thread. You were fantastic, 50 points. And they write back and they say, if it's a wonderful thread, why did you only give me 50 out of 100? I'm not giving you 50 out of 100. I'm giving you 50 out of 50 for the first part. There's a second part that needs to be completed. As I said, the limits of Canvas right now don't allow me to separate into separate grades a single assignment, like a single discussion thread. Okay, so bear with me. Don't freak out if you get 50 points on the first thread and think that I only gave you half of the possible points. That's not what's happening. Okay, keep that in mind. Last thing, discussion threads come every week. They're not, how should I put it, an intensely complicated thing to do, but you do need to do them, and you need to do them well. It's a great way to get good grades in my class. On the other hand, if you don't participate, zeros kill you. So don't think discussion threads are something you just don't feel like doing and you're not going to be a part of it. That will certainly kill your grade. Okay? If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to contact me with them. Looking forward to this semester with you. Thanks.